Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning to our fellow classmates and panelists. My name is KHAYRA Binti Khairul AMIM, and I am honored to serve as the moderator for today's forum discussion. Today, we are not merely discussing floods as a yearly inconvenience, but we are examining a growing national concern that reflects deeper environmental, structural, and governance challenges in Malaysia. Flooding in Malaysia has evolved from a seasonal event into a recurring crisis. In recent years, thousands of citizens have been displaced, properties worth millions of ringgit have been damaged, and many families have struggled to rebuild their life. Do you guys know the 2021 floods in Selangor alone affected more than 30,000 residents, exposing weaknesses, infrastructure, preparing systems, and also urban planning. And this situation compels us to reflect critically. Are floods simply unavoidable natural disasters, or are humans' decisions intensifying their severity? Climate change has increased rainfall intensity, leading to heavier downpours within shorter periods, and at the same time, rapid development and insufficient drainage systems have reduced our natural ability to manage excess water effectively. This issue is actually not distant or not theoretical, because this issue basically affects our homes, our economy, and also our future. To explore this pressing matter in greater depth, I am today joined by three thoughtful panelists. First, we have FIRZANAH, who will provide insight into climate-related environmental changes. Husna, how are you today?
Hi, I am fine.
Thank you. Next, we have FAIQAH AIMAN, our second panelist, who will examine how urbanization and infrastructure contribute to flood risk. Hi FAIQAH, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good.
And lastly, we have AMALIA, who will discuss governance and shared responsibility in addressing flood challenges. Hi Amalia, how are you doing today?
Hi everyone, I'm feeling good today.
Thank you, our panelists. And I'm KHAYRA. As your moderator, I will guide the discussion to ensure a balanced and meaningful exchange of ideas. Today, our discussion will be structured into two rounds. The first round, we will be talking and sharing insight about causes and contributing factors about flooding and climate change in Malaysia. While the second rounds, we will be sharing thoughts about impacts, policy, and responsibility. Without further delay, let us begin with round one, causes and contributing factors. Husna, could you elaborate on the extent to which climate change contributes to the rising frequency and intensity of floods in Malaysia?
Okay, thank you for the questions. In my opinion, climate change plays a very significant role in the increasing number of floods in Malaysia. If you look at recent data, the number of flood incidents is clearly rising. In 2024 alone, Malaysia recorded 1,345 flood incidents compared to 809 incidents in 2023. This sharp increase shows that flooding is becoming more frequent and serious. And one major reason is climate change. As global temperatures rise, the air can hold more moisture. This leads to heavier rainfall within shorter periods of time. When too much rain falls at once, rivers overflow and flash floods happen very quickly. We have also seen that during recent monsoon seasons, thousands of people were affected. In 2025, more than 11,000 people across 7 states were displaced due to flooding. This shows that the impact is not small, it is affecting communities nationwide. However, climate change is not the only factor. Deforestation also increases flood risk. When forests are cleared, we lose natural systems that absorb rainwater. Trees and soil normally slow down water flow. So without them, rainwater moves directly into rivers, causing water levels to rise rapidly. And also, rapid urbanizations worsen the situation. Many green areas have been replaced with concrete buildings and roads. This surface cannot absorb water, so when heavy rain falls, the water has nowhere to go. So if the drainage systems are not strong enough, flooding becomes almost unavoidable. So in my view, floods in Malaysia are caused by a combination of climate change and human activities. It is both an environment issue and a development issue.
Thank you, Husna. What a wonderful insight and thoughts. Climate change increases atmospheric moisture and disrupts traditional rainfall patterns. As rainfall becomes more intense and concentrated, within shorter periods, rivers rise rapidly and drainage systems become overwhelmed. This demonstrates that environmental changes are directly influencing disaster patterns across the country. Next, let us hear thoughts and insight from our second panelist, FAIQAH. FAIQAH, beyond climate change, how do rapid urbanization and inadequate drainage system worsen flood situation in Malaysia?
Thank you, Khaira, for the question. In my point of view, poor drainage planning and uncontrolled infrastructure development are major contributors to flood disasters in this country. Although climate change increases rainfall intensity, human activities make the situation more worse day by day. Firstly, poor drainage planning is a serious issue, especially in rapidly developing urban areas. But many drainage systems were built years ago when the population was much smaller. And today, urban areas have expanded significantly, but drainage capacity has not been upgraded accordingly. When heavy rainfall occurs, especially in Malaysia, tropical climate, the drains cannot accommodate the large volume of water. As a result, water overflows onto roads, commercial areas, and residential neighborhoods and causing flash floods. This problem is more obvious in highly urbanized areas. For example, in the statistic, we can see that wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur has one of the highest population densities in Malaysia, with more than 8,000 people per square kilometre. High population density usually means more buildings, roads, and paved surfaces. These hard surfaces prevent rainwater from seeping into the ground, increasing surface runoff. When runoff increases but drainage systems remain small or poorly maintained, flooding becomes almost unavoidable during this heavy rain season. Secondly, uncontrolled infrastructure development reduces natural water absorption areas. Forests, wetlands, and open fields act like natural sponges that absorb rainwater and slow down water flow. However, when these areas are cleared for housing projects, highways, and commercial centers, the natural flood control system is destroyed. Without proper retention ponds or water management system, rainwater flows directly into drains and rivers at a much faster rate. States that experience high development activities also show higher environmental pressure. For example, we can see that states like Selangor produce large amounts of scheduled waste compared to others. If waste management is not handled properly, rubbish can block drainage systems and worsen flood conditions in this country. And this shows how development waste generation, and flooding are interconnected. And on the other hand, land clearing activities such as logging also contribute indirectly to flooding. For instance, we can see in Sarawak records high log production compared to other states. When forests are cleared, soil erosion increases and rivers become shallower due to sediment build-up. Shallow rivers cannot hold as much rainwater, making floods more frequent during the monsoon season. And this may partly explain why certain states record a high number of floods incidents annually. Furthermore, some development projects are built in low-lying or flood-prone areas without sufficient long-term planning, and rivers may be narrowed or diverted to make space for buildings. This actually reduces river capacity and increases the speed of water flow. When continuous rainfall occurs, especially in East Coast states during the monsoon season, the weak draining and altered river systems fail to cope with the volume of water. So, in conclusion, while natural factors such as heavy rainfall play a role, I think human factors like poor drainage planning and rapid urbanization, also land clearing, and weak enforcement of development regulations significantly worsen flood disasters in Malaysia. The statistics support this situation, but the core issues lies in unsustainable development and inadequate infrastructure planning. Unless Malaysia improve their urban planning, strengthens drainage system and adopts more sustainable development practices, flood risks will continue to increase. That's all from me.
Excellent points, Faika. I think when natural landscapes are replaced with concrete surfaces, rainwater can no longer be absorbed into the ground. Instead, it flows rapidly into drainage systems that may not have been designed to handle such volumes. This imbalance between development and sustainability significantly heightens flood vulnerability. Next, let's hear insight from Nur Amalia. Amalia, in your point of view, are floods in Malaysia more influenced by natural geographical factors or by human means management and environmental negligence?
Okay, thank you for the questions. In my opinion, floods in Malaysia are influenced by both natural geographical factors and human mismanagement, but human factors are becoming the more dominant case today. Do you agree, Faika?
Yes, I strongly agree with that.
So, first, we cannot deny that Malaysia geography naturally makes it prone to flooding. Malaysia experiences heavy rainfall during the monsoon season, especially on the east coast such as Kelantan and Terengganu. The northeast monsoon brings continuous rain for days, causing rivers to overflow. In addition, Malaysia has many low-lying areas and river basins, which naturally increase flood risk. So yes, geography and climate play a major role. However, I strongly believe that human mismanagement has made the situation worse. Rapid urban development without proper drainage planning has contributed to flash floods, especially in cities like Kuala Lumpur. Forest clearing, hillside development, and excessive land reclamation reduce the land's natural ability to absorb rainwater. When drains are clogged with rubbish, even moderate rainfall can lead to flooding. These are not purely natural problems. They reflect poor planning and environmental negligence. This is a real case. Do you know here in Ipoh itself, during the December 2021 floods in Malaysia, several areas in Ipoh, such as Cemor, were affected after continuous heavy rainfall. Residential areas such as Cemor and surrounding neighborhoods experienced rising water levels,
when drainage system could not cope with the volume of rainwater. While the heavy rain was a natural factor, reports highlighted the clogged drains and rapid development in certain areas contributed to the severity of the flooding. This shows that human factors can significantly worsen natural disaster. Plus, I will argue that while we cannot control natural rainfall, we can control how we manage development and the environment. If proper urban planning, strict law enforcement, and responsible public behavior are practiced, the impact of floods can be significantly reduced. Don't you think so?
Yes.
Yes. So, overall, natural factors may trigger floods, but human actions often determine how severe they become. That's all for me.
Thank you, Amalia. Malaysia's monsoon seasons and geographical conditions certainly expose us to heavy rainfall. However, unsustainable land clearing, hillside construction, and weak environmental enforcement can greatly amplify the consequences. In many instances, it is preventable human action that transform heavy rain into large-scale disaster. It is evident that flooding stems from a combination of environmental forces and human decisions. Let us now proceed to round 2. Round 2, impacts, policy and responsibility. Husna, could you outline the long-term environmental consequences of frequent flooding in Malaysia?
Thank you, moderator. So, moving to the second question, the environmental impact of frequent flooding is long-term and serious. First, repeated floods cause soil erosion. Strong water currents wash away fertile soil, which affects agriculture and food production over time. Second, floodwaters often carry waste, sewage, and chemicals into rivers. This pollutes water sources and harms aquatic life. If this continues, it damages ecosystems and reduces biodiversity. The economic impact is also significant. In 2024, flood-related losses in Malaysia were estimated at around 933 million ringgit, which was higher than the previous year. This shows that floods are not only environmental disasters, but also major economic burdens. If no serious environmental planning is done, in the next 5 to 10 years, I believe Malaysia may experience even more frequent and more destructive floods. In conclusion, climate change increases rainfall intensity, while deforestation and rapid development increase our vulnerability. To reduce flood risk, we must address both environmental changes and human decisions. Thank you.
Wah, insightful, Husna. Repeated flooding can erode fertile soil and contaminated freshwater resources, and also disrupt ecosystem essential for our agriculture and fisheries. Over time, these environmental consequences can threaten food security, biodiversity, and economic stability in affected regions. FAIQAH, do you believe that Malaysia's current flood mitigation policies are sufficiently preventive or are they largely reactive?
Thank you, KHAYRA, for the question. In my opinion, Malaysia's current flood mitigation policies are still largely reactive rather than fully preventive. Although the government has introduced several flood control projects, many actions are taken only after major flood disasters occur. For example, as you can see, After the devastating 2021 floods that severely affected areas like Shah Alam and Klang, the government announced new flood mitigation plans, emergency funds, and infrastructure upgrades. However, these measures were introduced after thousands of families had already lost their homes, vehicles, and belongings. This clearly shows that the response often comes after the damage has happened. One issue is rapid urbanization, especially in cities such as Kuala Lumpur. Development projects continue to expand into flood-prone and low-lying areas. Forests are cleared, hills are cut, and natural water retention areas like wetlands are reduced. Although environmental impact assessments are required, enforcement and long-term monitoring are sometimes weak. As a result, preventive planning is not always prioritized. And also, Malaysia has implemented projects such as the Smart Tunnel in Kuala Lumpur, which helps divert floodwater. While this is a good preventive measure, similar large-scale solutions are not equally implemented nationwide, especially in smaller towns and rural areas. This actually creates unequal levels of protection. In conclusion, while Malaysia has taken steps toward flood mitigation, many policies still appear reactive because improvement often follow major disasters. To become truly preventive, Malaysia must strengthen enforcement, invest consistently in infrastructure upgrades, control urban development in high-risk areas, and promote sustainable activity environmental management. Only then we can reduce flood risk effectively rather than simply responding after the disaster has happened.
Thank you, FAIQAH. While emergency response systems are often mobilized effectively, sustainable flood management requires long-term management, infrastructure upgrades, stricter zoning regulation, and climate adaptive planning. Without proactive strategies, recovery efforts may only address symptoms rather than root causes. Lastly, question to our panelist three, Amalia. Amalia, in addressing flood-related challenges, who should bear the primary responsibility? The government authorities, private developers, or the public?
Thank you to our spirit moderator for the thoughtful questions. So, in my opinion, this issue should be seen as a shared responsibility. But right now, I will argue that the government should bear the greatest responsibility, followed closely by private developers, while the public plays a supporting role. First, the government holds the highest authority in planning and enforcement. They are responsible for approving development projects, designing urban policies, maintaining drainage system, and ensuring proper flood mitigation strategies. In many flood-prone areas, such as Selangor and Kelantan, large-scale infrastructure like flood retention funds, river widening, and early warning system can only be implemented by the government. Since they control policies, budgets, and law enforcement, it is logical that they carry the greatest responsibility. However, we cannot ignore that role of private developers in many cases. Rapid urbanization, hillside project, and construction in low-lying areas have worsened flood risk. If developers prioritize profit over proper drainage system and environmental assessment, the community will suffer. Therefore, developers must strictly follow environmental regulations and ensure sustainable planning. And as for the public, their role is important but more individual in nature. Throwing rubbish into drains, ignoring environmental care, and failing to follow evacuation instruction can worsen flood situations. While individuals may not have large-scale power, collective behavior still makes a difference. So, to conclude, floods are not caused by one party alone. However, because of their authority and decision-making power, the government should bear the greatest responsibility, with developers and the public working together to support long-term solutions. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Amalia. Appreciate your perspective. Flood mitigation demands shared accountability, and governments must enforce environmental regulations and invest in resilient systems. Developers must prioritize sustainable design. Meanwhile, the public must adopt responsible practices such as proper waste disposal and environmental awareness. Only through collective commitment can long-term solutions be achieved. In conclusion, today's discussion has demonstrated that flooding in Malaysia is a multifaceted issue shaped by climate change, development patterns, infrastructure capacity, governance, and collective responsibility. Addressing this challenge requires practical policies, strategic planning, and continuous public awareness. On behalf of today's forum, I would like to thank HUSNA FIRZANAH, our first panelist, FAIQAH AIMAN, our second panelist, and AMALIA, our third panelist, for their valuable contributions. And thank you to our fellow classmates for your attention on today's forum. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
That's all from us. Thank you and Assalamualaikum. Bye.